All right, friends. All right, friends. It's T, and I'm back with another video, and it's on our favorite natty lifter, Jason Blaha Strength and Fitness. Whoa, he's got the lighting on now, showing off. Look at him showing off the dad bod to daddy bod, dad bod to daddy bod. It's a marketing ploy, I guess, eh? For the clients, yes. He's got a couple slots open. Okay, so he says here that this lifting slave here, he says the barbell curl is a big compound exercise. Well, yeah, I don't know. It's a compound exercise. Yeah, maybe you could. I suppose that you could count these movements as being anything you're doing, even if you're laying on your back doing a bench press. That could be considered isometric because you're working against gravity. Number one, it's isometric just means a standing still motion with a heavy weight. But you could be moving a heavy weight through real time. That's why people say, well, oh, this guy's doing partial reps, doing these heavy ass squats. Yeah, but he may be wanting it for the isometric compound, the compound isometric movement. So he's compounding it by doing, I don't know, quarter reps, half reps, because he's not going to just stand there with the weight on his back. It's going to be kind of boring. But if he moves, at least there's some movement being made. So he's actually working against gravity. Even if he is doing partial reps, okay. Look, when people are doing partial reps, especially from something that is working against gravity, that's why they say the big four. The big four would be what? Deadlift. If you're pulling the motion up, your body's going to adapt by giving you more of these androgen receptors to increase that force production. That's why power lifters are only interested in the pulling motion. They're not interested in the down motion. But if you're a real bodybuilder trying to build myofibrillar growth, you're very interested in the down motion. Why? Because that's the part where the muscle is in a lengthening position to cause micro injuries to the muscle fibers. They don't get injured in a pulling up motion, but it will compensate you in a, how should I put it? In an adaptation process by giving you more androgen receptors. Okay, man, that's how it works. So the bench press, it's working against gravity. The deadlift, the OHP, and the squat is working against gravity. The squat is more superior because you have a gravitational loading on your back. Therefore, that's why people say it's a mass builder. It is. I would not disagree that a gravitational loading, especially the squat, can give you somewhat of a gravitational loading, disrupting the muscle cells, possibly giving you some more muscle cells in the process. I can't tell you how much more it's going to give you. It's really hard to tell, okay? These cells are microscopic. To get them bigger, protein synthesis needs to exceed this breakdown to get them to see the mass, visually to see the mass. It takes a while to see it to come out. It's not going to just happen right away. Something microscopic, and then all of a sudden it's growing, and whatever. You're going to see some growth in like 2-3 days. Like these crazy people, 20 pounds of muscle in 10 days, or whatever the fuck they're talking about. That's sarcoplasmic, okay? Real muscle takes quite a while for it to start appearing and getting bigger and bigger. But once it does, it starts getting bigger and bigger and bigger all the time. So it takes a while when you start out building real myofibrillar growth as opposed to sarcoplasmic. Now, as far as him doing these curls with the bar, yeah, me personally, I lean into it because I'm really trying to hit the biceps. He's leaning back, trying to throw the weight up like an Olympic lifter. You don't get benefits at throwing weights up and down. The benefit is the down motion is, look, you can throw the weight up if you want. Let's just say there's the whole throwing part, again, that's working toward against gravity. It's the lengthening part, the lengthening partial is that what you're trying to focus on. So when people say, "Oh, they're doing these partials," they're not focused on the partial itself. They're not focused on trying to get androgen receptors. They're focused on trying to get a micro tear, but the problem is they're not because they're chronic lifters. They think they are, but they're not getting it. Because if it's not associated with DOMs, you're not getting and associated with a lack of strength, power, stiffness, this, that, whatever, all these things that come along with these micro injuries. If that is not happening, then you're not getting it. Okay, man, let's just review this video.
Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I thought I would reiterate this point because I discussed, we know that, okay, because of where it's at in the positions, and I think people don't realize the top half of a curl usually involves a little more brachialis. That's why people think of it as the peak and the contraction, and the lower half is going to involve a little more bicep in terms of just the ratio.
That absolutely does not matter. You only need to focus. Why are you look, the question is, you have to ask yourself, why are you throwing the weight up? Why are you pulling it, like just throwing it up? Is that the most important thing for the bicep? Absolutely not. Is that good for getting more force production so that that weight somewhat feels a little bit lighter? Well, yeah, these androgen receptors will compensate. So the reason why a lot of people are throwing heavy weight up in the air is just the same thing like people throwing up deadlifts. They're pulling the weight fast off the floor and then they drop the weight. Why aren't they putting it down slowly in a lengthened position? See what I mean? They're just pulling it up. So there you go. Do powerlifters get fiber splitting? I can't tell you for sure. It's hard to say. They're chronically lifting, so they, even if they did get it, they fuck it up. Even PubMed tells you that they fuck up the regeneration of these split fibers. They become forked. So yeah, then they're just a bunch of useless fibers hanging around, forked fibers. But yeah, if there's a smart person, he'll allow it to repair and remodel. I don't know. It all depended on the person, but they're chronically lifting, man. These people, they're all like endurance athletes. They're all in a hurry. They think that muscles are built in the gym. They're crazy. Maybe this strength is built there for sure. The strength, you're getting these androgen receptors, but they do get disrupted in lifts. They too get a type of damage or disruption, and there's oxidative damage, hypoxia here. So yeah.
Between the two, okay? Like all exercises do not work all heads of a muscle or parts of muscles in an area the same. Like
okay, so I wouldn't disagree with him throwing the weight up in the air. Yeah, because people will tell you they're doing cheat curls. They're not doing cheat curls. It's the lengthening position. If they're bringing it down slow, then it's okay. He's moving a bit too fast. You throw it up and then you go down a bit slower on the down motion. But you can do it fast as well. I'm not saying this is a bad thing. I'm just saying the lengthening position is the position that causes the micro tear. If you are a periodic lifter and not a chronic lifter like him. So he's wasting his time. He's chronically lifting, is sarcoplasmic. That's all. He's an endurance athlete.
Just do the full range of motion. And there's actually evidence and anatomy on what I just said. Seen some good experts.
Why do you think when you do the pull-up bar, you're pulling up your biceps, using your biceps to pull you up? It's the lengthening position of the doing pull-ups on the pull-up bar that causes the most stretch and the micro tears in the muscles in your arms. Yeah. If you've never done pull-ups on a pull-up bar, like straight, like focusing just on the bicep, I suggest you try it, do as many as you can, and you'll notice you'll get a DOMS, and it'll last for quite a few days. During those days, you want to eat as much as possible and be in an anabolic growth state. And those arms will grow. Real muscle.
Let's discuss it. But when it comes over to the topic of building other muscles, something that we have to keep in mind, this is still a structural standing full body exercise involving multiple joints.
The only muscle he's building here is sarcoplasmic. He's just looking for an aesthetic look right now. He's not building any muscle.
For example, and I'll mention something that Jamie brought up in one of the vlogs. I don't remember the name at this point, and I was trying to hit him up to, hey, what was that football player's name? But a couple of points of interest. he brought that up, that there was absolutely a famous NFL player who the only
he just looks average. He looks average, like he's, I don't know, like he's on a carnivore diet almost.
lifting the guy did was barbell. Also, I saw a guy, and I thought this was interesting. There was a guy on Facebook I saw in my feed, and in the reels he came through, and he was pointing out, he's doing some flexing. He's like, look guys, I do have a little bit of Latin pec. And I was looking at his thing. He really only does arm work for his upper body. And I think he does like some lower body stuff, some leg work and deadlifts and whatever. But because he had some situation with his scapula, because there's some problem with him kind of pinned in place, he's got a medical issue. And accordingly, he can't really do lat pull downs or rows or bench pressing or anything. So because of his situation, he doesn't really do any chest or lat work.
Okay, that's really weird. That's a condition. A lot of people have medical conditions. I have a neurological condition, so can it be considered very painful? Yes. People who have neurological damage, they're in extreme pain, man. Some people are really hawked up on painkillers. They have there's mild to extreme neurological damage. Some people have, I don't know. It's all dependent. Have neurological damage from doing chronic lifting? Yes, you can. If you're a chronic lifter, you could get neurological damage. Any physical labor job or anything you're doing too much of something, you can get neurological damage. I'm telling you, it happens to a lot of people.
Just does arms, but he does tons and tons and tons of heavy curls and even standing barbell curls. And
it will appear one day when you least expect it.
Tricep extensions, right? He did all these things. We would look at that and say, oh, well, this person would obviously not have any pecs or lats. He wouldn't even look like he have whatever. With lats and pecs, it looked like he'd only been lifting for a year, But they were definitely, absolutely bigger than an untrained person, Not on par with some of these smaller influencers you see.
They were bigger in an untrained person? Well, the average person walking down the street is untrained, duh. He's like, oh, his arms and his lats and everything were obviously bigger than an untrained person. You're trying to compare yourself to somebody that doesn't lift in the gym? That's like saying, hey, this guy who does gymnastics, he's better than an untrained person that doesn't do gymnastics. What the fuck? Or, hey, this guy who trains for swimming, he's better than an untrained person that swims. No kidding. Hello? The hell is he talking about?
But those muscles still grew. Okay? That's interesting. And then look at what's going on with this. Look at what all you see contracting and flexing as I'm doing.
Those muscles still grew. Man, oh, phew. Yeah, sarcoplasmic muscles, they still grew. They're going to grow the more glycogen you keep eating.
These, a nice heavy.
Did you get a good pump today again, there, Blaha? Yeah, because the pump is associated with sarcoplasmic artificial muscle growth, hypertrophy, yaman.
Full range of motion curl. I'm doing these even though I feel obviously the...
You see, he really is a chronic lifter. And this is associated with chronic lifting. This aesthetic look that you're getting and everything and what he's doing and the pump and this and that is associated with somebody that is an endurance athlete.
I said doing more work than... But even when I do them strict, I still feel that stuff. Okay, but that shoulder movement involved too. What are we working? But
I bet you he's back on the TRT, man. I'm telling you. He's a fake. He's a slave to all these things. His supplements, his slave food, his slave steroid use, and his slave chronic lifting. He is a slave to all these things because they're unnatural. Here's the thing. For us ectomorphs, it's not unnatural for us to have an aesthetic look, okay? especially the younger you were as an ectomorph, us ectomorphs, let's just say, okay? Out there. I'm not talking about these other body types. I'm an ectomorph. I'm saying that when we were younger, we all had a very aesthetic look. My brother had even a much more aesthetic look than I had. He's actually way taller than me. He's like 6'5", and he's got a way much more aesthetic look. And I always like looked at him and I just kept wondering, fuck, my brother never worked out, but he had a very muscular aesthetic look. He just looked good, you know? And so we had that aesthetic look. He looked better than me though, but I still had an aesthetic look because I was an ectomorph, and so is my brother. And so growing up, we had an aesthetic look. It's a natural thing, okay? We don't have to work towards it. But Blaha, he's fat. He had to work towards getting this aesthetic look. It's unnatural. So there you go. Now, as far as his strength, we were strong as young people. My brother and I, we were pretty strong. My brother was even a pro runner at one point, and so was I. And what I'm trying to say is that I did many sports. I did even strongman. I did a bunch of stuff, running, marathons. I did triathlons, a whole bunch of stuff. Okay, the point, even gymnastics. I was in gymnastics, all kinds of stuff, fucking martial arts, you name it. Very, very, very strong. Could still even lift strong without being trained to lift something heavy. I could do it off the bat. It wasn't really hard. So that's what I mean by natural strength. So he is practiced. This is practiced strength. This is practiced, this aesthetic look and everything. So, and him taking the steroids to lift even heavier and everything he's doing here is unnatural. It is unnatural. That's why I tell people, try to find out what your natural strength is. And then if you're not feeling so strong, try to find out what is compromising that natural strength. And most likely it's your diet that is compromising your natural strength. So maybe you want to try a carnivore diet. So a high-fat animal carnivore diet. You understand me? And see how you perform. I can't tell you these things. Why do people find that they have higher testosterone on a carnivore, high-fat carnivore diet? Why is that? But they have very low testosterone to ratio to estrogen, higher estrogen, when they're on a herbivore diet. This carb diet and shit that people are eating out there, processed food, whatever. See what I mean? So it's something you need to figure out what's compromising you naturally, this, that. So that is a lot of the reason why people go to gyms. They go to gyms because they eat artificial food. They get this weight. They gain a bunch of weight, shitty weight. They lose their aesthetic looks. And they get weak. They're weakened because the estrogen to ratio to testosterone. And so they think they're weak. They got to go to the gym, lift a heavy weight to get stronger. And a bunch of other shit. I think they're building muscle as well. And then they just come in like everybody else, chronic lifters. And they're building like these artificial muscles. So, like I said, it's dependent on you. You need to figure out what's going to work for you. And yeah, I'd focus on natural first. Figure it out on your own. I'll see you in the next one. Tell us what you think about that. Like, subscribe, support the channel. It helps with the algorithm. Yeah, this is chronic lifting. He's a slave to these things for the rest of his life.
I feel all those things. Think about that for a moment. Look where your angles are. You telling me, okay, this is a full range of motion curl where I'm walking at the bottom, bringing it all the way to my face. It's absolutely.
He says it's a full range of motion curl. He's throwing the weight up and down. But again, I feel there's nothing wrong with that when it comes to micro tearing muscles. Does he need it for this glycogen loading? Yeah, I suppose so. The quicker the motion, the more you could get this glycogen to load in the muscle to create these phony sarcoplasmic muscles, because for every gram of glycogen, 3 grams of water are drawn between the skin and the muscle into the muscle. So yeah, you definitely want the motions to be quick too as well. So there you go, man. I'll see you in the next one. Tell what you think about that. Like, subscribe, support the channel. See you in the next one, broski. Yes, our coach Blaha. He's growing muscles. The problem is they're never really growing.